What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my hands-on and first impressions video of the Motorola Moto G9 Power. So let's get started. So this is the Moto G9 Power. This device was launched very recently in early December of 2020. This is an international phone, but in the US, it will work with any GSM carrier. Now this phone is the successor to the Moto G8 Power. Now Motorola took an interesting approach in early 2020 because they released the Moto G8 Power for international markets, and then the Moto G Power, which was similar but also slightly different, was launched in North America. So I'm expecting that Motorola in 2021 probably will release a North American specific variant of this phone. It probably will be very similar, but I'm guessing that it will have some differences too. So I will be covering that device as well, just in case you were wondering. But again, if you use a GSM carrier in North America, then you're going to be able to use this phone with it. So this device might be a good option for you. Now, before we get into all the details that I know you want to hear about this phone, let's take a closer look at everything that comes included. So of course, we get the actual phone itself. We do also get a clear case included. Not really the most durable case ever, but definitely a decent temporary case until you get a more durable one. Now, I did purchase this device from eBay, and I believe it has a UK wall adapter included in the box. So they did provide a North American adapter that you would plug that adapter into, but I'm not sure if every variant of the Moto G9 Power comes with a UK wall adapter. So definitely make sure to double check before purchasing anything, but I do want to make that clear. But here is the box the phone does come in. You can see right here, Moto G9 Power. Then on the back of the box, we have some more info about it. So it does have a very massive 6,000 milliamp hour internal battery. So the main priority of this phone is to give you some of the best battery life out there. But we'll open up the box and take a closer look at everything that's included here. So the first item that we have in the box is this packet with some information. So we have a Moto G9 Power quick start guide, also another booklet here as well. And we also have a SIM card removal tool. So getting further into the box here, again, this particular variant of the phone did come with a UK wall adapter, and the wall adapter is 20 watts. We also have a USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. And we have 3.5mm headphones, and the headphones do come with a microphone. And then here is the actual Moto G9 Power itself. So this phone has a very large display. In fact, this display is 6.8 inches. It is an IPS LCD display. Now, surprisingly, we are getting a resolution of 720p. We're getting a PPI of 263. We're getting a 20.5:9 aspect ratio. So a very narrow and tall display. And we're getting an 83.1% screen to body ratio. So I know that all throughout 2020, 20:9 was pretty popular, and it looks like this phone might be the start of a trend of phones getting even taller and more narrow. So I'm really curious to know about your thoughts about that. But one thing's for sure, even though the display is massive on this phone, the device is still really easy to hold in the hand. And even though it is 720p, things do look decently crisp and clear here. And when looking at the display, it definitely does not look bad at all. So I'm definitely happy about that. Now up top here, we do have a hole punch for the front-facing camera, and that camera is 16 megapixels. Stay tuned for my full review video as I'll show you photo and video samples from the device. Now with this phone, we're getting 128 gigabytes of internal storage. So that's a lot of internal storage. And we're getting microSD card expansion. Now there's no wireless charging with this phone, but we do get a fingerprint sensor on the back. So we'll try that out right now. And very quick there. Let's try that out one more time. Yeah, definitely very fast. This phone also offers Face Unlock too, which I definitely appreciate, especially because the Moto G9 Plus doesn't have Face Unlock. Now on the back side of the phone, we do have a triple camera setup along with a flash. So there's a 64 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. It is a bit disappointing though to see that they didn't include an ultra wide camera. Now we do get portrait mode though with both the rear and front cameras on this phone. Now here's how things look on the camera app on the device. So here is the main camera right here. Then from there we can switch over to the macro camera very easily. So we can get nice and crisp and clear close-up pictures. We can also switch over to portrait mode as well, going down to this little menu in the corner. And then there it is right there. So we get those nice blurred out backgrounds. We can also flip around to the front-facing camera to get portrait mode as well, like I mentioned earlier. And then we can also use just the standard photo mode too. So I am liking what I'm seeing so far. Again, it is disappointing that there is no ultra wide angle camera, as I do like to have that feature, even with budget phones. Another weird thing too about the camera app is how small some of these buttons are. I don't really see a reason why the settings button should be that tiny when we have a display this big. And the menu to access the other camera options is really tiny. I don't get why it needs to be that small, especially when there's this much open space. But again, you can tap on that menu button, and then we do have some different options here. So we have spot color, cutout, night vision, cinematograph, panorama, group selfie, ultra res, live filter, pro mode, and then there's also some other video options as well. So we do get a lot of different abilities here in the camera app. I just wish that some of the buttons were a little bit bigger, but maybe it is possible to make those larger. I'll have to look more into it as I prepare for the full review video. Now internally here with the phone, we're getting 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is definitely pretty generous, and we're getting the Qualcomm Snapdragon 662. Now I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test with the phone, and here are the scores that I got. So I got a single core score of 311 and a multi-core score of 1411. So what I recommend doing is running the Geekbench 5 test on your current phone, and then compare those scores to these scores to get a good idea of if this phone will be a performance upgrade for you or not. But from my brief experience of using the phone, it does seem like things are decently fast here, and I'm not really noticing any really obvious performance issues. But of course, I'm going to test this quite a bit more, and then I'll give you my full conclusions in a separate video. Now, video recording with this phone does max out at 1080p at 60 FPS for the rear camera, and 1080p at 30 FPS for the front-facing camera. So unfortunately, there is no 4K video recording here with this phone. Now, the signature feature of the Moto G9 Power definitely has to be the battery capacity, and this phone definitely does not disappoint when it comes to that. As you saw earlier in the video on the box, this phone features a 6,000 milliamp hour internal battery. So an extremely large battery, and also it charges at 20 watts. So extremely impressive there. And if you're constantly facing issues of your phone running out of battery, then I would say this phone will probably be the ideal upgrade for you, because it's pretty tough to go through 6,000 milliamp hours of battery in a single day. Now the software on here is Android 10. It does feature Motorola's custom interface, which really isn't that custom from stock, so I do appreciate that. But basically, they took stock Android and then they added in some other extra features, but at the same time, you are getting a very stock experience here. So I'm definitely a big fan of it, and I will be doing a dedicated tips and tricks video about this phone. Now, another cool feature about this particular variant of the Moto G9 Power, again, I do recommend double checking when you are purchasing the phone. But this phone does have NFC, so you will be able to use it with Google Pay to make mobile payments. And I know that NFC is something that often is not included with too many Motorola budget phones. But now that we've gone over the major specifications of this phone, let's take a closer look at the hardware. So I already talked quite a bit about the front panel here. We are getting a very large display, again at 6.8 inches. We're also getting pretty small bezels all around as well, except for the bottom bezel, which is a little bit thicker. But in general, I think at least when looking at the front panel here, it is a good looking phone. Now on the left side of the device, we have the slot for the micro SD card and SIM card. We also have an additional button here that activates Google Assistant. Not really something that I would see myself using too much personally, but if you are someone who likes that, it is there for you. Then on the right side of the phone, with the power button, volume down and volume up. Then up top here on the device, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack and noise canceling microphone. And then on the bottom of the phone, we have the microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the speaker. Then on the back side of the device, we have the triple camera setup, and then the flash, and then we also have the fingerprint sensor. Now I do like this material on the back, mostly because it doesn't really pick up too many fingerprints, so I do appreciate that. But on the other hand, it is a hard plastic material. Doesn't really bother me too much, but it also doesn't really feel too premium. However, I do recommend using a case with this phone if you do end up getting the device. With this phone, using Geekbench 5, and these are the scores that I got. So I got a single core score of 504. Now video content does look good here in the phone. Also the speaker sounds good as well. However, one thing that is a bit surprising here is that there is no stereo audio with the phone. So we do have the main speaker in the bottom of the phone, but when watching video content or listening to music or really doing anything, audio does not come out of the earpiece. And that actually is a bit different from the Moto G Power, which had audio coming out of both. So in that sense, it is a bit of a downgrade, and I do wish that they did give us audio coming out of the earpiece as well. Obviously, when you're doing phone calls, audio comes out of the earpiece, but when doing anything else, you only get audio out of the speaker on the bottom. This is a compromise that the A series from Samsung has also had for a long time now, and it looks like Motorola might be doing that as well to save a little bit of money. Now, since the display is 720p, video content is also limited at 720p. That is, of course, to be expected. And in general, I think things do look decently good here. And really, the 720p display doesn't bother me too much. I really don't see it as a deal breaker, but I am curious though to see what you think. One other thing I want to mention about the speaker too is that even though all the audio just comes out of this speaker, it does still sound good. So even though I am disappointed that stereo audio has been taken away, this speaker is still good enough that it's not really a deal breaker. But I hope you enjoyed my hands-on and first impressions video about the Motorola Moto G9 Power. If you enjoyed the video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to sub. Now this is my second channel, so if you are more familiar with my main channel, Kevin Breeze, definitely stay subscribed to both, as I will have a variety of awesome content uploaded on a consistent basis on both channels all throughout 2021. But again, hope you enjoyed the video and have a fantastic day.